everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today. I'm Rima Katz, Editor-in-Chief at Payments Journal. As digital banking grows more competitive, customer engagement is make or break. Today, we're exploring how AI-powered solutions can optimize critical moments that drive loyalty, satisfaction, and long-term value. Before we dive into the webinar, let's do a round of introductions. David, why don't you introduce yourself first?
Sure. Hey, Rima, great to be here. Dave Floyer, I'm the Chief Product Officer at Galileo Financial Technologies, which is also known as Sofi's tech platform. We have two major platforms. We've got a payments platform that includes debit processing, money movement, fraud, and a whole bunch of other functions associated with issuing cards and processing payments. And then we've got a whole different platform from our acquisition of Technisys, which is based on bank infrastructure and the needs of banks. And that covers a digital bank experience platform called Cyberbank Digital. We have a banking core called Cyberbank Core. And the reason we're here today is to talk about our intelligent digital assistant called Cyberbank Connecta.
Great to have you here. Diane?
Yes, thanks for having me. Diane Tucker. I have the privilege of leading the global operations functions for Sofi. Within my remit is all of the member-facing interactions on the phone channel, as well as our async channels on the email, SMS, as well as in the chat function and all the back office support pieces that enable that. All the infrastructure that's required to deliver that is part of my remit. And again, from today's conversation, I am a client of Konecta, and I'm looking forward to talk about how we leverage AI in our servicing experiences today.
Great to have you as well, Diane. And last but not least, Christopher.
Hey, Rima, great to be here. Christopher Miller. I lead the emerging payments practice for Javelin Strategy and Research. I work with clients to help them think about how to leverage and prioritize their efforts with new and emerging technologies across the payments ecosystem.
It's good that you are all here. Before we begin, just a few housekeeping items. Questions can be submitted at any time during the webinar, or you can also reply to any of the GoToWebinar emails that were sent by our team, and we'll get back to you ASAP. And don't worry about taking any notes. You'll receive a copy of this recording following today's discussion. So let's kick it off. And I want to start by talking about micro-moment optimization. We've seen banking customers experience dozens of micro moments in their financial journeys where engagement is either won or it's lost. David, from the CPO perspective, how are you identifying these critical moments, and how is conversational AI helping create positive experiences?
So if I think about sort of the way a customer would want conversational AI to interact with them, what do those interactions look like? I'd say the first thing is really analyzing the intent of the person, of the customer, right? And sort of saying, hey, why is this person even seeking customer service, and what can I look at in terms of the customer's recent history, recent events, and sort of what products and services they have access to meet people where they are in their financial journey and sort of understand and predict why they're trying to call and get all of that ready so I can start to have the right answers available. And so I can sort of create a tailored experience that shows the customer that I'm focused on them. So if you ask me, micro moments are really about being where a customer needs when they need it and staying out of the way when they don't, because you want to make banking seem easy and personal and connected, but you don't want banking to feel like it's imposing, it's a marketing thing. I'm sending push notifications 5 times a day to annoy a customer, right? So things like don't make it take 10 minutes to identify who you are and why you're reaching out, right? Banks should know who their customer is. So should your intelligent digital assistant, right? It's not just about like cost savings, but it's more, really deep engagement and understanding that the micro moments are the opportunity you have to capture a really significant event for a customer, because customers tend to call their bank when there's a problem. They don't tend to call a bank when they're happy. So how, as a financial services organization, can you capture that to build on that engagement, drive trust, and really turn that micro moment into a spotlight moment where the customer really feels like they had their needs addressed and served quickly, efficiently, but also personally and in a customer-centric manner. I think that's how we think about it. So why are they calling? What are the reasons for? What are the recent events that have happened to that customer that have called that have forced them to reach out to their financial services institution? And I think lastly, how can we best address that in a way that addresses who that customer is, where they are in their financial journey, and sort of, collecting those micro moments so that we can go to battle to capture those on behalf of our clients.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think if I could add, the key thing I would want to highlight is it's all about solving that member's problem. And here at SoFi, we call our customers members. I should clarify that. At the end of the day, it's not a surprise that when you engage in a chat conversation, that the first touch point is with an AI agent. But how does that AI agent humanize the experience, understand who they are, provide the confidence that their problem is going to be solved is truly, truly, and truly important. And so when you think about how we leverage it, especially being a digital bank, members can service all things. They can't go into branches. And so when they do want to speak to us, it's not a surprise that there's an AI agent, or in this case, Konecta, is illustrating that. But how do we do it in a way that's meaningful and that the members can trust it?
One of the things I think that's interesting about an application like this, Diane, and maybe you can talk a little bit more about it, is, we hear a lot right now about generative AI and about consumer-facing AI agents that are portrayed as being able to solve every problem, right? They are general agents. And what I'm hearing here is really kind of a narrow case of a specific agent that is designed to solve the particular problems of a member of a particular financial institution, in this case, SoFi. How do you communicate to others, right, the difference between those types of solutions, right? Because I think you might get a lot of people who come in and say, look, we've got AI, it solves all our problems. And what you're saying is, no, actually, we have to remember that there's a specific person with specific needs, and that's actually the value. It's not the value that you can solve every problem, it's that you can solve this one particular problem. Maybe, David, you encounter that as well when you think about implementations.
I'll start by saying the AI agent is part of our servicing strategy. And I think that's probably the first and foremost component I want to make sure is very clear. It's not an additive, it's not a bolt-on. And I think some people make that mistake of thinking just bolt it on and it works. It is definitely not a crock pot. You can't just set it and forget it. You have to ensure that, to your point, you understand context, you understand what you're trying to solve for. We do a lot of research into understanding what our members are contacting us about first. Understanding what problems we do want the chatbot to solve. And if I'm honest, like, we use sentiment to decide what goes to Konecta versus what may go to an agent. If someone is using frustrating, very clearly, what we call a high emotional moment where maybe they're experiencing fraud, or there's money that's been missing from their account, right? While Konecta can set up and confirm that we know who they are, we understand what their product they're talking about, straight through processing, right? We need to get that to human. We don't want to create what may be something more sensitive. Not that Konecta can provide sentiment, but clearly the member is charged. Let's get them to a person ASAP. But if it's transactional, if it's more inquiry, right? If it's more solving the immediate need of the moment and not necessarily something that could be, if you will, very, very charged and emotional, where we want to have a human touch, we use that insights to decide, okay, in these interactions, whether it be processing a wire or transferring money or private account balance information, inquiring about products, APYs, right? Making sure our members feel comfortable with what the products and services we're offering. So I think of those more transactional interactions versus, high risk, if you will, high emotional triggers. So we do that analysis actually each and every day. Again, Konecta, as amazing as it is, as awesome as the results have been, like when we ported over, we already saw a 60% uplift pretty much immediately from our prior provider. So it's quite effective. But indeed, it's a partnership with what are those contacts we're getting, what are agents handling, whether it be on the phone or in the chat space, and making very intentional decisions about where we feel like the AI agent, a very much extension of our brand, can handle it with efficacy, or where for us, at SoFi, we feel like it will be better handled. Not that Konecta could handle it, but sometimes, right, and I'm sure you all can think about in your personal life, those high charged moments, even if the AI agent gave you the response, like, I just kind of want to hear from a human. I want someone to give me that confidence that not only is the issue solved, but even talk through all the permutations that may be bubbling through a mind. So again, I think the key is using the AI agent as part of the servicing strategy. It is not a bolt-on. And when you do that, not only will you get the efficiency you need, again, by driving more straight-through processing in the bot, but also the satisfaction that you're servicing your clients, your members, your customers with the highest efficacy and quality in each and every interaction.
Yeah, and just to add to that's how the relationship with Diane's organization is really helping us shape the product, I think, to be much better than it originally was conceived to be. We tend to think, we're technologists, right? We tend to think about how do we take pain points and turn them into positive experiences, right? And turns out that's a lot harder than you would think, right? So having Diane's organization as close partners of ours to sort of say, hey, it's part art, part science. How do we leverage the emotional intelligence? How do we leverage the sentiment analysis? And what should we, on the Konecta side, be looking at to really sort of serve the customer in the best way is not necessarily something that you can get from sort of a generic generative AI program. It's something that you need to actually build deeply into the way your digital assistant works. And that's, by the way, why we've gotten away from language like chatbot, because it's not just a generic LLM, right? We build a lot of this sort of into the way Konecta works so that we can really drive the best experience for the Sofi member or whichever customer is a client of Konecta. So figuring all of that out has been highly complex, but the relationship with real people that are really driving customer service and figuring all of that out has been invaluable to us.
David, to kind of like piggyback on that, we've seen a lot of significant advances, specifically in emotionally intelligent conversational systems. Can you speak to how you're implementing emotion recognition and response capabilities and the impact that you've seen on customer satisfaction metrics?
Yeah, and I guess the point is it's a lot more than sentiment analysis, right? We all know that sentiment analysis has been around for quite some time, and of course we're leveraging that, right? But how could we use deep learning to really pick up on customer emotions in real time and then support them in their moment of need? And that's a really complex thing that we've had to crack, and I think we've done a pretty good job at that. It's pretty impressive. I think staying in the background but not disappearing is sort of one of the things that we try to do really well. So telling a customer we're there, but as we're retrieving information or whatever else, letting them know that we're working, but not being annoying and constantly asking questions just to keep a Sofi member or another customer busy. That was kind of key. And it speaks to the emotional sensitivity of the application. So what we try to do is we try to portray the emotion of the client, where you might have an old stodgy bank that sort of wants things coldly professional, and you may have a financial services institution that's more of a fintech that wants things young and hip, right? So it's not just necessarily understanding the emotion of the customer, but it's also projecting the brand of the institution and being able to feel like you're talking to somebody that's been trained as part of that institution's brand identity. So that was important to us, and we built that directly into Konecta. And what we've seen is significant improvements, like response times improving by 65% to boost satisfaction, 50% fewer people dropping from chat, and as Diane said, like 60% of conversations being able to move to the intelligent digital assistant while still maintaining or increasing CSAT, which is incredibly hard. So all of that has been pretty promising for us on this journey as we see sort of how to add the human touch to the intelligent digital assistant and treat people the way they expect to be treated. I think that's been key to driving emotional intelligence into the screen.
And that partnership, I think, from day one was critical. Our desire to not just, again, bolt on an AI agent, but really create a human-centric AI approach has been, I want to say unheard of, actually, David, because even our prior partner, again, it's like the set it and forget it mentality. But from day one in 2023 to even today, our teams work very, tightly together to really understand what our consumers want, our members want, what the agents are actually experiencing. Because again, it's in our continuous omni-channel approach. It's not just what the members are interacting with, but what is falling to an agent. Should it fall to the agent, or should it be serviced by the AI humanistic, if you will, bot conversational AI tool that we use? And so it's really exciting to see how we've overcome some of those hurdles and really worked through how we can provide better servicing experiences through the Konecta tools as it integrates with our existing infrastructure or telephony. And I'll just call out one particular thing that actually makes our, going back to the satisfaction of not just the member, but even the agents, is that handoff. And so it's seamless. It's not this like busy bot that's like, hey, I'm only queuing things to you because the human you need to get to is busy. Like the actual bot is actually solving the problem, is actually providing context. And if the member has more information or maybe a secondary point of clarification that does require a person, it's seamless. And the handoff, not just to the member, is clear, but also to the agent. They have the context, they know what it was. You don't have to repeat yourself, which is something I think we all hate doing when it comes to customer services. I just told you my problem. I gave you all the context. Now I got to start all over. And so I just want to call out that when you think about not just the straight through processing components, if it does have to go to human, that transition from a digital agent, if you will, to a human agent is seamless. And that's where I believe, the differentiator with what we've done, not just the product, but the partnership to drive that and ensure that is delivered as part of our vision that is very human-like. So it's almost like a transfer from person to person versus the static, very archaic chat tool that then requires a repeat for the member, starting all over, no context, which can be very painful from a servicing perspective.
But Diane and David, one of the things that we hear kind of constantly in our work talking to vendors across this space is that consumers are the ones demanding this type of experience. How did you go about validating that, for example, your members really did expect this kind of experience and, putting my buyer cap on, if you will, that it's not just a capability that someone is trying to sell me, right? Because that's kind of a key point. If you don't know that your customers actually want it and you push this down their throats, you're not going to take advantage of the micro moments that you've outlined so far. So curious how you went about validating that part.
So I'm going to answer it and hopefully not get in trouble. So I've been in the financial services space for over 10 years. I work for a traditional bank and now I work for a digital bank. And it all starts with research. And I'll tell you, in the traditional bank where you walk into a branch, right, where you do have those options to interact with people, the learning curve and the opportunity to get to a Konecta-like experience is greater, right? At the end of the day, you're trying to shift the paradigm and how people are thinking. I believe, for the most part, when I was at my when we did primary research, we talked to consumers, not just in a branch space, but also for the phone's contact center channel. People just want their problem solved fast. Speed versus human versus AI is actually the number one driver for customer satisfaction. And then secondarily, that, of course, is efficacy. Like, you want to be it solved first contact resolution. You don't want to have to contact multiple times. And so that's what the themes we saw in the traditional bank space. I think the slightly different but similar approach of doing primary research, we also do a CSAT survey, if you will, after every interaction. So members have an opportunity to tell us, do they like the interaction with the bot or not? And same thing with the agent. So we have concrete data that we look at on a day-to-day, month-to-month basis to decide, again, going back to what types of calls, what types of interaction, what types of inquiries do we serve up in the AI agent versus what do we think, hey, again, fraud was a good example, like someone just stole money from me. Like, let's not even introduce the AI more than to just get context. Let's get them to a person as fast as possible. And so the only difference I would say is, like, on the digital side, right, our members are engaging with us 100% of the time in the digital channel. So it's an expectation that they're interacting in digital spaces from the moment that you become a member. Secondarily to that, going back to something Dave said earlier, in our space, because we are a digital bank or digital financial institution, I should say, at the end of the day, the things that they do contact us about are actually mostly just problems, because they can do everything online. They don't really need to rely on a branch or a human to service their products. And so what we do, again, is use that CSAT survey information. And that's actually how we uncovered that, yes, things are working great when it comes to making payments, understanding balances, making general what I call transactional information. But those high emotion ones, we're getting terrible CSAT results. And so we quickly pulled some of that back and say, in the example, the fraud use cases, like, let's make sure we just get them to a person, because it's not that the bot can't solve it. It's something about that human touch that gives people more confidence that, again, not that their accounts are secured, that their funds are back on the way, and that, again, SoFi has our back. And so one of the beauties of, in my prior life and in this life, both were customer centric. But I think now within the digital world and the digital space, we, again, look at Konecta as part of our servicing strategy. It's not something we evolved to. It's actually something that's a day one expectation of not just us, but even for our members.
And as a product leader, I love that, right? Dan is constantly finding new ways to measure things and sort of drive correlation into causation as we make changes, and then she's measuring and sort of seeing how that's working, and going back and saying, were these changes what caused that? And if they're positive, great. But if not, what should we roll back? What should we try and do to increase member engagement and member satisfaction? And I think that's super challenging to do, because customers don't like to constantly be pummeled with surveys and driven crazy about sort of how their experience was, because the last thing you want to do is either overwhelm them with surveys and questions, or worse, find out how that did by them walking and going to a different financial institution. So that balance has been challenging, and I think Diane's team is really great at that, and they've done a really good job of sort of being able to measure the changes that we make, and ensuring that we take a data-driven approach to enhancing the experience versus the opposite. I think the other thing that we also shouldn't forget is that there's this generation gap, and I frequently talk about my son, college student, who really doesn't carry a wallet. He uses his Apple phone as his wallet, and that whole generation does not ever want to speak to humans. They would much prefer a digital experience. And so there's a whole class of people that, in fact, we know from surveys, and they've told us they actually would much rather have an intelligent digital assistant than talk to a human. So we think of that as a paradigm shift, because we sort of grew through the human customer centricity of the personal experience of talking to somebody for customer service. But in fact, there's a whole generation that much prefers the chat interface, and sees the necessity to call a human and talk to somebody as a drag, because it's slower, it's more personal, they have to actually have a conversation, and it's not what that generation prefers. So I think there's also this emerging set of let's say, customers that grew up with purely digital experiences in every aspect of their lives, and expect that to carry on to their bank relationship. And so figuring out that balance as well, and how we sort of how we address the needs of that generation has been something that's interesting to us, but certainly is a proof point for why intelligent digital assistants are important and necessary, because those are the next customers, right?
Yeah. And it's all about self-service. That's the one thing I'd add too, is we just did some primary research just to, again, in the spirit of continuous improvement, on what our members would prefer from a servicing channel evolution. And 50% of them were saying that at the end of the day, right, if I can't self-serve, like, I'm disappointed. I would love to have it all just happen magically in the app and have to talk to somebody. I'm not annoyed by that, but I am disappointed that I couldn't self-serve. And so what the digital assistant provides us with is that ability to deliver on that promise. And so we're continuing to march towards that. Again, like I said, it's not a crock pot. You can't set it and forget it. We think about it each and every day.
Diane, let's talk about the implementation journey. Can you walk us through your institution's journey implementing conversational AI, from the initial business case to deployment? And I'm also curious in terms of how you know that you're ready, and if there were any unexpected challenges that emerged and how you overcame them.
Yeah, I won't sugarcoat it. Like, it's definitely a lot of effort cross-functionally within SoFi a few years back to come up with a clear business case. Again, the tool we used before, it worked. It was like, it's not broken. So like, why do we need to do something different? And again, starting with that objective of improving your digital CX, and not just looking at the AI agent or conversational AI as just a bolt-on, was the key driver for the need for that business case. I think at the end of the day, a lot of financial service institutions, you probably use them in your personal life. You're probably seeing them as you do competitive analysis. do look at it as a chatbot, and it's not an intelligent LLM. It's not providing the humanistic expectations. It's not really integrated again in your servicing strategy. But because it works, you're reluctant and to take the risk, if you will, to drive the prioritization, bring the cross-functional partners, do the 2 to 3 month process to migrate over. It is an opportunity cost, right? If you're choosing to migrate, you're not doing something else. And so starting with that clear business case was key for us. And again, keeping the ideas of integrated omnichannel, digital CX, moving beyond just a chatbot and getting to an integrated and conversational AI agent was the utmost important and the driver for our why. And that brought leadership and others, technologists on the SoFi side in partnership with tech platform and Galileo along the journey with us. The biggest hurdle, I would say, is really understanding customer sentiment. So that tuning, we did a lot of alpha, beta type testing along the way to really just understand, like, not just a scripting path, but make sure that it's scalable and customizable along the way. And so that was, it's something that's probably not widely known. That's probably the best part of our relationship with the Konecta team is as we iterated even before launch, they would figure out how to tune not just what was member facing, but even the agent side, as well as the team that is providing some of the insights that are needed. And that's not unheard of, right? It wasn't even out of the box. It wasn't something that they already thought to equip for clients. Based on feedback that we had, they were able to customize and ensure that our API implementations were flexible. It provides seamless integrations with our digital channels. And again, it wasn't that things weren't great out of the box. We were striving for excellence and a very humanistic centric AI agent along the way. So I think that at the end of the day, that effort from business case to tuning, to understanding the problems to be done, to understanding how we wanted this human AI, conversational AI integrated into our servicing strategy was key. And that smooth handoff, we actually had agents participate in the experimentation with Konecta, both as the member and then also as the receiver. And so the voice of our front line is key to the way that we solve problems. They are the closest to our members. And so if you think you're customer centric and you don't talk to your front line, here's my little plug. Talk to your front line. They will tell you what's working and what's not working. And so their input actually got us to a point of where we got to launch, and again, significant engagement, significant improvement, uplift immediately when we converted over. And then they're also part of that continuous improvement in how we refine the AI modeling, consumer feedback, again, agent feedback, engagement metrics, CSAT, as we continue to evolve and strive for even better customer experience for our members.
I would just add that, from a product perspective, some of those, some of the way of sort of thinking about this space is diametrically opposite of the way you think about other product spaces. We have fraud products, and those fraud products are about balancing, you want the highest customer satisfaction, you have to block the least number of transactions, which means you have more fraud. So you're constantly sort of figuring out what's the best balance between a divergence of higher customer satisfaction, but also blocking a maximal amount of fraud. And when it comes to customer service and intelligent digital assistance, it's completely the opposite. Customer satisfaction and the customer service must converge. There's no divergence to balance. It's like, no, you must absolutely always drive the highest customer satisfaction. And that's a very different way of thinking about a product where, on the fraud side is how do we create the right signals and create the right decisions so that a company can decide sort of what their risk appetite is and all of that. On the intelligent digital assistant side, it's really about how do we make those decisions on behalf of the company so that we're reflecting the company's needs and the company's approach and creating the best customer experience. And that was such a tough challenge for us to really sort of take a completely different approach with a completely different product and think about it completely differently. And again, the partnerships with Diane's team have been invaluable in helping us understand sort of what are the expectations around the decisions that we need to make on behalf of the company so that we drive the best customer experience. And so that's been a challenge for us, but also a terrific learning experience and something that we've built directly into the product.
You've all spoken about customer expectations, and essentially, I myself as a customer also expect a seamless experience across channels, across the devices that I use. Diane, can you speak to how your organization has approached integrating conversational AI across these multiple touch points while also maintaining conversation context as well as the personalization that customers really crave?
Yeah. At the end of the day, we look at servicing as an extension of our brand. It is not an afterthought. It's actually at the tip and spear of how we do product development here at SoFi. And so knowing that it's an extension of our brand, that personalization and context matters the most. And so what we do is we spend a lot of time just really trying to understand the AI-driven insights from the consumer macro moments, and often like relevant, timely product real time. There isn't, when someone is actually in their phone or on their website, mostly phone, and sending in an inquiry, right? We need the AI agent, we need Konecta to already know who they are, right? What potentially product they've already are calling or interacting with us about, what their potential pain point is. Could they've already fallen out from another page? Do they have an active dispute? Do they have a wire in process, right? So all that context and personalization actually matters. Analyzing transaction history, behavior, loyalty. I think that's another one. If you are a SoFi Plus member, we greet you with a different greeting than if you are or not. And so all of that happens just kind of almost like magic to the consumer. And we like to say that it surprises and delights, and all of the research and feedback we've gotten, that was probably the biggest uplift that happened when we migrated over. And so learning from those conversation histories, we've gone to async, so you can now interact with us 24/7, not just with the bot, but if you had to reach a human, you can do that. So that context stays with you, the consumer. It's part of your profile. It's like what we call a member 360 view, so that, again, the AI agent doesn't just service you, but we also know you. And we know you in a way that uses our brand voice. We know you in a way that makes it seamless. Whether you're on the mobile app, you go to the web, or you get transacted to the phones, all that context that you have with our conversational AI Konecta is translated through our channel. So that omni-channel experience, going back to our goal of really having true digital end-to-end servicing as an extension of our brand, was pivotal in how we designed and partner, breaking down those silos, unifying it. So again, the AI agent is part of the integrated strategy, and that personalization and the context that it provides for our members has been critical to break down those silos and give that humanistic experience that we strive for and that members expect.
So you've done and put in all this work, and now it's time to measure the success of it. David, what metrics have proven to be the most valuable in measuring the impact of conversational AI on customer satisfaction and retention? Have you observed any surprising correlations between AI engagement and other business outcomes?
Yeah, so from our perspective, and Diane and team are really the experts on this, because they're the ones that are measuring and remeasuring all the time to make sure that they're driving for excellence. But we focus on resolution rates, time to resolution, and of course CSAT. And I guess probably the most interesting thing that we found is that as we analyze, let's say, like frequency and depth of AI interactions, right? Repeat usage, escalation rates to human agents, all of that, right? So that we can sort of find out how customers feel about trusting the intelligent digital assistant, right? Is that we actually see that the conversational AI engagement strongly correlates with increased satisfaction and retention. And what we actually thought was, despite it being desirable by a large segment of the population, and despite all of the evidence that we can drive a faster time to resolution with Konecta than we can with the human agent, I would have expected still that there was this feeling of, they didn't think enough about getting a human on the phone with me. They just threw me to the chatbot, right? But in fact, I think what we've been able to do is create a situation where we win on both ends, right? We deliver the improvement response times. We have less conversations dropping. We handle most of the common queries for our clients like SoFi. And because we're able to create this human-like, emotionally intelligent experience, we also see an increase in CSAT, which has been really awesome for us to see. And the challenge, of course, to us is, so what do we double down on, right? How do we do better? And I think as we think about measuring success, again, back to the omnichannel experiences Diane was talking about, for us, it's about surfacing Konecta and making sure that we're there for customers wherever they are in their journey, and sort of figuring out what are the key micro moments in which to surface the intelligent digital assistant. We know that we can do that successfully if we are there. So the question is, how can we be there? Is it in speaking experiences? Is it in vehicle experiences? Is it micro experiences like on a watch? What are the surface areas in which a customer expects their bank to be there for them, but otherwise disappear? And so sort of disappearing Konecta into the fabric of experiences and really providing that context across all those channels. So it doesn't really matter how you're interacting with, as an example, Sofi. Wherever you are, Sofi knows who you are, knows what you want, has your history, has you authenticated, and therefore can be quickly there for you to respond to your question. Figuring out those surface areas and how we attack those surface areas, that's where we're spending most of our time. We know that intelligent digital assistants work. We know the emotional connection feels real, and we're able to project the brand experience. Now what, right? How can we be there even more for customers so that our clients know that they can rely on Konecta to do new and interesting things and sort of drive that loyalty and trust and move from a CSAT metric to an overall NPS metric? I think that's where we're focused.
Yeah, if I may add, that's spot on. Again, being member-centric, like using CSAT and NPS is the gold standard of really knowing how that is impacting the overall servicing experience. And spot on, like we've exceeded and actually moving even further beyond what we expected Konecta to deliver for us in the conversational AI space. What I'd add is then from not just from a member point of view with CSAT and NPS, but our agents find it to help them relieve their workload. They feel that they trust the agent, the AI agent more now that we've converted over to Konecta versus our prior provider. I think the other piece that, let's be honest, like we're all in it from a business perspective, and I am accountable to a P&L, and we were able to go to even dual, two concurrency from a chat perspective. So what that means is, can I service two members at a single point in time? And prior to Konecta, right, we weren't able to do that. And so the fact that Konecta provides more context, again, the personalization, understanding what the member's problem is, and doing that handoff seamlessly, we can now effectively not impact our customer satisfaction, not impact our NPS, and provide our frontline with the things that they need to service effectively and efficiency by removing all of that transactional workload off of the work that they're doing. So it's increased the actual satisfaction from our frontline. And so that drives actual P&L benefits, right, when it comes to the cost to service our members each and every day. And then I'd add that when it just from what we've seen from just even that drop, so if we need to keep people and provide them that self-service that they're requiring, again, going back to the stats that we actually just recently learned from our members, they prefer not to talk to someone. They're actually disappointed when they have to talk to a human. They don't mind it, but if they can self-serve, we've seen those improvements significantly, right? And so 80% of the time, all the common inquiries Konecta can handle today, and that's with the emotional intelligence experience across digital channels in the moment. I think one of my favorite use cases is if someone's trying to apply for a loan, and I think everybody, debt and income and needs can be very confusing and frustrating and a high emotional moment. We've actually been able to provide Konecta as that help tool to guide them through that decision making without having to pick up a phone or without having to talk to a human. And so at the end of the day, that workload, that satisfaction, all of that is being delivered with Konecta as our conversational AI.
One of the things that we see across the industry, it's an interesting moment in time where we have emerging technologies that are making new things possible and exposing kind of a gap between a previous generation of, quote, chatbots that frankly just weren't very good and left customers actively enraged as opposed to satisfied. So the shift here is clear, right? And the benefit is pretty clear. The gaps show up, or I should say the improvement shows up in the customer scores, and it's likely to become the direction that all of those other bad bots are going to have to follow along, right? This is the direction that things are going. I'm interested in the long run about what that means for how additional improvement can be extracted, right? This is the, if you will, the easy phase where you've taken a bot that was actively bad and made it pretty good. Now, what does the challenge look like over 3 to 5 years of taking that bot that's pretty good, that's not a bot anymore, that has real emotional appearances, and continuing to improve and deliver that increase? Like that's going to be, I think, a continual challenge for folks who are working in this space to find new sources of insight to drive that continued development.
So I totally agree. And I think a lot of that is what is the next phase of sort of the intelligent digital assistants? I mean, right now they're highly reactive to a customer sort of inquiring, right? And we can send push notifications, but we don't send chat notifications out that say, hey, you have, a transaction that looks that looks like it was quite large. Do you know what it is? Were you aware of it, right? And so I think there's a whole generation of sort of proactive interactive experiences that are waiting to be built and being developed. And so we're thinking a lot about that and how we can be proactive as well as reactive. And that's, again, something that requires quite a lot of sensitivity to the customer experience, because the last thing you want to be is annoying and oppressive when a customer is trying to work or they're watching TV and you're like, hey, did you think about maybe buying a CD or investing in a CD, right? It's like the last thing you want. So, thinking about how we can be proactive while still being sensitive to the customer experience and also not being creepy. I don't want to know everything that my clients' customers are doing, right? SoFi members deserve privacy. And of course, I don't want to have to understand what activities they're engaged in order to understand when to interrupt them. So figuring out how to be proactive in a customer sensitive way, I think, is an incredible challenge and something that we're definitely looking at. And then, of course, Vanguard pioneered, bot-based personal financial management 40 years ago. But what does that look like today? Are there opportunities for us to offer advice in new and unique fashion to customers that leverage an intelligent digital assistant, again, in a more proactive and less reactive way, and in a more thoughtful way? And that's something that we're very closely working on and something that we hope to talk about soon. So
I think I'd add, from a client perspective, what, I'm asking David and team to help us build is keeping track of the usage and the almost personalization, going back to that point. What I mean by that is if Christopher, you're a high user of chat and you interact with it often. Do we serve up must, could, should, would to you more frequently than maybe I would, who I've been in the bot twice since I've been a SoFi member. And so that made, do we have a propensity of usage that then gears out? When can you interrupt Christopher when he's interacting? Can you present options to him? Because he's a high user. He depends on it. He likes it. He uses it often. His CSAT is high. He doesn't complain that it's annoying and creepy. Whereas Diane Tucker is not so much. I use it. I want to know my balance. I want to know, did my wire process? That is about it, right? So I'm a transactor. I'm not necessarily an active user. And so I think when you think about 3 to 5 years out, it's how do, again, going back to knowing our members, knowing who they are, what channels they prefer to communicate us in, if they're relying on conversational AI to get their money right, as we like to say at SoFi, so that they can spend less, so they can save more, then why not, right? Why not make the AI agent really part of their, if you will, financial assistant? And so that's, to me, where we need to be. But people opt into that, I think, versus not, because just as many people who, said no, I'm disappointed when I have to talk to a person, there are a group of people who are you know what, kind of just want to talk to a person, don't even give me the AI agent. And so we just got to make sure as we evolve, we meet consumers where they are. And if companies claim to be member centric, there isn't a one size fits all. It's a one-to-one strategy.
So I think one key takeaway that I'm also hearing is don't be creepy. But as we come to an end, I'd love to hear any closing thoughts or any additional key takeaways that you really want the listeners to walk away with. Christopher, I'll start with you.
So I think that the biggest thing that I've heard today is something that we've been telling clients, and it's that you don't need an AI strategy. You need a business strategy. And this conversational AI servicing approach that we've heard about isn't really about AI. It is about an approach to determining needs, customizing for customers, and then applying whatever technologies are appropriate, right? It's a layered tech stack in this case that brings to life the results that we've heard about. And I think that's probably the single most important. A lot of folks who are listening probably are being told by their boss or their boss's boss that they need to have an AI strategy. And I just can't say it enough. You don't need an AI strategy. You need a business strategy.
Spot on. And I know you didn't call me, but it resonates with me because I live it and breathe it every day. And that is the hurdle to overcome, right? So when you're defining your servicing strategy, where does conversational AI sit in there? And it's a piece of that puzzle, right? It's a piece of your servicing approach. It's a piece of how you extend your brand to your members. And without that strategy, it's like a tool decision. And tool decisions take business cases that sit on shelves for way too long. And I'd leave listeners with, the opportunity costs may seem daunting because anybody who's ever done a migration before knows that it takes the sacrifice of time, people, and talent. But the payback, right, for us from the consumer perspective, first and foremost, and then our frontline agents, avid lovers of how this is omni and embedded in the servicing experiences we have today. And then, of course, I wouldn't be doing my job if I wasn't delivering to the top and bottom line for SoFi. And so those financial and efficiency benefits are also there. They're not the why, but they're definitely added to the why we continue to partner with Konecta, and why Konecta is, again, to your point, Christopher, part of our strategy.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you both. I think the thing that keeps me up at night is sort of who's the customer, what are their problems, and what experiences are we trying to drive to support them? And that's in support of a business strategy for ensuring that you have sort of this trusted and valued relationship with your customers. How we do that? Yeah, that might be AI, that might not. It happens to be that with Konecta, absolutely, it's using AI. But back to Christopher's point, Diane's point, it's all about the customer. It's about making our business work for the customer and, of course, for ourselves. And so the cost savings is great, the efficiency is great, but at the end of the day, it's if we know who the customer is and how to solve their problems at scale, then that's a great business to be in, and that's a great place to be. The fact that we can do that by using AI is absolutely terrific, but the main part of that is we're able to enable businesses with important functionality to help drive the customer experiences customers have come to expect. And that's key to our everything we're about.
I'd like to thank you all again for joining us today and sharing your insights and perspective. And for everyone that's tuning in, I hope today's discussion helps you create smarter, more meaningful connections with your customers. Thanks again.
So long, everybody.
Yes, thank you.